Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Granfia deck profile. This is the Stoicheia deck that we got out of the Set 9 Dragon Tree Invasion. This deck focuses on being able to call out a bunch of tokens, but instead of utilizing them like you normally would as tokens on the field, you're able to call out a Noblesse Rose token onto the field, and then set up all the other tokens you would call onto the field underneath the Noblesse Rose token as if it were a plant gauge, setting up more and more, so the more plant gauge cards you have set up under your Noblesse Rose token, the stronger for an all-out power restand attack you can utilize with your main go-to grade 3 Vanguard, Lavian Lord Granfia. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck, our starter is Kine Lording Granfia. The standard when rode upon, if you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Future Suzerain Granfia. When this unit is rode upon by Genius Wise Wolf Granfia, you may call a plant token to rear. So it's just the setup for your usual plant token on the field, with our grade 2 being Genius Wise Wolf Granfia. If your rear guard has a plant token and your soul has a Future Suzerain Granfia, when you would ride a grade 3 card with Granfia and its card name from your ride deck, you can ride without discarding a card from your hand. So all you need is that initial setup from your ride deck, and you can go into your main go-to grade 3 Lavian Lord Granfia quite easily for the ride deck setup. Before we go to the rest of the actual deck, I figured we'd go over the Noblesse Rose token, since it's a big part of the deck for the initial setup. On rearguard, this unit cannot be moved to other circles, and if you have a Vanguard with Granfia in its card name, all the following effects are active. When you would place a plant token on rearguard, put it as this unit's plant gauge instead, and this unit gets +5 for each of its units gauge. And when you would retire a rearguard as cost, it can be paid by retiring plant token rearguards. It can also be paid by discarding plant gauge. So you have the cost of your plant token rearguards, but also just being able to remove the gauge while it's underneath your Noblesse Rose token is a big help for the initial play setup. Using our deck, since our main grade 3, we're running 3 additional copies of Lavian Lord Granfia. On Vanguard, circle once per turn. You can Soul Blast 1. All plant tokens on your rear guards become plant gauges. Call a Noblesse Rose token to your back row center rear guard and put all your plant gauges on that unit. So this sets up any tokens that would have already been on the field as a plant gauge underneath your Noblesse Rose token. And on Vanguard, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked, put 1 or more up to a total of 5 Noblesse Rose tokens or plant gauges into the drop zone. Choose one of your rear guards. It gets +5,000 till end of turn for each card put into the drop zone from this cost. If you put 3 or more cards, you stand that unit. This is the access to your 4th attack for the deck, being able to restand a rear guard after you drop some of the plant gauge that would already be on your Noblesse Rose token. With how many tokens you can call out with this deck, you can set up your Noblesse Rose token very, very easily with plenty of plant gauge, hitting for a big attack with your Vanguard, and then giving up some of those plant gauges to restand one of your rear guards to attack with an additional boost as well. Moving on now to the grade 2s. One of the best token setups for the deck is Ron Orangerine. When this unit is placed on rear, you may call a plant token to rearguard. Front row rearguard at the beginning of your battle phase. If you have a Vanguard with Granfia its card name, you may call a plant token to rearguard. So since any of your plant tokens will be set up as plant gauge onto your Noblesse Rose token, you're not actually calling out the plant token to rearguard. You're setting it up as a plant gauge on this card. So if you set up the Noblesse Rose token and Granfia, you'll be able to get 2 gauge onto that token thanks to your Ron Orangerine on the field. And also for the other grade 2s, running 3 copies of Spurring Maiden Alenia. When this unit is placed on rear from hand, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose a grade 2 or less card from your drop zone, call it to rear, and it gets +5,000 to end of turn. So Ron Orangerine doesn't have to be placed from the hand, it's just when it's placed on the rear guard. So you can set up your columns quite easily with Alenia being able to call out Ron Orangerine, and then Ron Orangerine just being able to provide another token on the field, since it gets that additional one when placed and then at the beginning of the battle phase. So if you set up another one, thanks to Alenia, it's just more and more tokens to then call out onto the field. Moving on now to the grade 1s. I run 4 copies of Farm and Pumpkin. On rearguard once per turn, if you have a Vanguard with Granfia on its card name, Soul Blast 1 and call a plant token to rear. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, call it to 2 instead. So this is just a Soul Blast once per turn for 2 plant tokens on the field, or you can just have this card set up to plant gauge under your Noblesse Rose with a once per turn Soul Blast. This is one of the cards that, like I said before, can help to just easily set up plant tokens on your field to utilize as plant gauge, because once again, with your Noblesse Rose token, when you would put a plant token on rearguard, you put it as this unit's plant gauge instead. So you'll still need rearguard columns, so this could be a good grade 1 boost to your Ron Orangerine or your Alenia when you call them out to rearguard. And also running 4 copies of Burrow Mushrooms. With this card on rearguard, you put it into your soul, call up to 2 plant tokens to rear. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard or Granfia in its card name, choose one of your rearguards, and it gets plus 5,000 till end of turn. So you can provide plus 5 power to one of your other units. If you don't have a booster to that other column, the Ron Orangerine that may be on that column can at least get a plus 5 power, thanks to Burrow Mushroom also providing plus 2 to your other token on the field. So it can attack first and then get the restand power after you use your Granfia's ability to, just get rid of some of your plant gauge on the field and then restand that unit. Also running for the rest of the grade 1s, just 4 copies of Planner Prevent Dragon. If you have Elementaria Sanctitude as a Blitz order to run, you can replace 1 copy of this card for 1 copy of that Blitz order, just as another means to stop triple drive on the field. For our orders that we're running in the deck, we're also running 4 copies of Prolific Oranges. You play this card with a Counterblast of 1 and call up to 2 plant tokens to rearguard. You can only activate 1 normal order per turn, but just for a Counterblast of 1, you're getting 2 plant tokens or 2 plant gauge onto your Noblesse Rose token on the field. So it's just an easy provide for more and more power onto that unit. And for our other orders, 3 copies of Tearful Malice, just to make up for some of the playstyle, being able to give you a counter charge and then placing this unit into your soul to then use as a Soul Blast. You have to play this card by retiring to the rear guards. So with your option for the Noblesse Rose token, when you would retire rear guard as cost, it can be paid by retiring plant token rear guards and also be paid by discarding plant gauges. So you can just take 2 plant gauge off of Noblesse Rose token to activate your Tearful Malice as well. With the last of our orders that we run in the deck, just 1 copy of Gradius Gradel, so we have access to another Persona Ride card if we didn't already Persona Ride during this turn. And then for the trigger lineup, I run the 7 criticals, so 4 copies of the Aspiring Maiden Elena, and 3 copies of Jackalope, just for more pressure that the critical can provide if your opponent blocks the Vanguard and you have your restood rear guard with additional power provided by the Noblesse Rose token. That additional critical could definitely be one they either can't guard or have to take and risk getting a heal if they're at 4 damage or more. With our next trigger also just being for draw for the additional guard and hand consistency, since you're going to invest a lot of your cards for the plant gauge token setup. And for our heals, 2 copies of Soul Repose Pixie, 1 Fairy Asher, and 1 Narcissus Noble for the additional lineup and risk for Dragon Tree decks as well, thanks to this card. With our overtrigger being the 1 Blessed Favor for the additional heal, critical power, and also power to the front row as well using this card. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. It's a really interesting deck that takes a whole new focus onto the plant gauge token setup, and for the fact that you'll probably need a lot of plant tokens for just the plant gauge that you can easily build up with this card, being able to get almost up to a dozen probably on 1 turn if you have enough cards to invest in it. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.